There is a type of message that slips past her defenses. Not a joke, not a compliment, not a desperate, hey. It's something far more subtle. A few words from a man can light up her face, raise her heartbeat, and stay in her memory longer than 100 likes on her photos. Most men never understand this. They drown her phone with boring greetings, predictable lines, or try too hard. But psychology shows us that desire is not triggered by effort, it's triggered by mystery, timing, and the feeling of being seen. Think about it. Every time she checks her phone, she's hoping for that one message that makes her feel different. A text that doesn't scream for attention, but instead pulls her into a private world. A message that flips a casual chat into something she replays in her head before she sleeps. That is the secret text. And once you know how it works, you'll realize it has little to do with what you say and everything to do with how you make her feel. If you're serious about understanding the dark psychology behind attraction, stay until the end. When most men send a message, they believe the words alone are enough. A hi, a what's up, or a compliment about her looks feels safe, but safety rarely excites the mind. Psychology tells us that the human brain is wired to filter out anything predictable. If the brain already knows what comes next, it does not release dopamine, the very chemical linked to excitement and desire. So when your text is just another plain greeting, it gets lost in the sea of routine notifications, no different than the reminder from her food delivery app. This is why so many men are ignored, not because she dislikes them, but because the message fails to touch the emotional part of her brain. Women respond for more to feelings than to facts. A study in communication psychology shows that women are more likely to remember the emotional tone of a message than the exact words. That means it is not about saying something perfect, it is about sparking an emotion she cannot ignore. The secret is to avoid being neutral. Neutral words feel safe, but they create no spark. The texts that stay with her are the ones that surprise her or make her feel slightly different about herself. Even a short message that challenges her, teases her, or reminds her of something private between you has more power than a long paragraph of praise. Think about how people form memories. Strong memories are tied to emotional spikes, whether positive or negative. That is why you remember embarrassing moments or thrilling experiences more than normal days. The same principle applies to texting. A man who knows how to place small emotional triggers in his words instantly separates himself from the crowd. It could be a playful challenge, like questioning her opinion in a teasing way. It could be a hint of mystery that makes her curious. Or it could be a private reference to something she said earlier, proving you were listening while others were not. What most men get wrong is trying too hard to sound impressive. Long speeches, exaggerated flattery, or copied lines don't just fail, they lower attraction because they signal desperation. Desire never grows in the presence of neediness. Desire grows where there is unpredictability and confidence. A text that seems effortless but hits emotionally tells her something powerful. This man doesn't need to perform, yet he makes me feel. That alone makes her curious to open your next message. So the first secret is not about charm, jokes, or even romantic words. It is about refusing to be ordinary. Every text is an opportunity to plant a small seed of emotion, and when done right, those seeds grow into desire that feels natural, not forced. That is why the simple, "good morning" text rarely works. It doesn't change her state of mind. But a message that creates even a slight spark of surprise has the power to stay in her memory far longer than you expect. Once a man understands that emotions are the real target, the question becomes, which emotions actually matter? Not every feeling creates attraction. Some emotions make her laugh but fade quickly, some make her curious but don't deepen the bond, and some make her think about you long after she has put the phone down. Psychology reveals that the emotions linked to desire and memory are tension, playfulness, and validation. A text that creates the right tension is like a song stuck in her head, it lingers even when she tries to ignore it. Tension does not mean conflict, it means leaving a small gap that her mind wants to close. For example, when a man sends a message that hints at something but doesn't fully explain, the woman's brain naturally fills in the blanks. This is called the Zeigarnik effect. a psychological principle where unfinished information keeps pulling attention until it is resolved. A message like, "I just thought of something about you," and stopping there, forces her curiosity to light up. Her brain cannot relax until she gets the answer, which means she is now invested in continuing the conversation. Playfulness is another underestimated power. Research in relationship psychology shows that humor and light teasing increase attraction because they lower defenses. A man who can make a woman smile through a clever remark signals intelligence and confidence. But the key is subtlety. Too much effort feels like a performance, while a light tease feels effortless. A simple playful text like, "Don't tell me you're the type who ruins pizza with pineapple," is harmless but instantly makes the exchange more alive than a flat compliment. In that moment, she is not just reading words, she is feeling something connected to you. Then there is validation, but not the shallow kind that men usually give. Telling a woman she is beautiful is common and forgettable. But noticing a small detail about her personality or actions creates a deeper mark. Neuroscience shows that people feel more connected when they are recognized for something unique about them. If she once mentioned staying up late to finish a project, and you text, "Still pulling all-nighters like a superhero," it shows attention beyond surface-level attraction. She smiles not just because of the words, but because she feels seen. These three, tension, playfulness, and validation, work together like gears in a machine. One creates curiosity, the other lowers defenses, and the last makes her feel valued. When used together, the result is a text she cannot read without experiencing a shift in emotion. That shift is what keeps her thinking about you even when she closes her phone. The truth is, every woman has dozens of men who can say, "Good morning." But very few know how to trigger her mind in a way that keeps her hooked. A single well-placed message can separate you from all the background noise of her inbox, because it doesn't just reach her screen, it reaches her emotions. When a woman receives a text that makes her smile, it is rarely because of the actual words. It is because of what those words represent. Every message a man sends is silently asking a question, "Who am I to you?" If the answer is ordinary, the text is ignored. If the answer sparks emotional charge, the text lingers. In human psychology, this is called association. The brain connects feelings to people, and once a man becomes the source of a positive emotional spike, the woman unconsciously begins to seek more of him. This explains why ordinary compliments or predictable check-ins fail. They do not create strong associations. But when a text connects to something meaningful in her, it transforms into a private symbol. For instance, if she once confessed that she loves thunderstorms, and days later you text during a storm, "Looks like your kind of weather tonight," it becomes more than words, it is proof of memory, attention, and emotional tuning. She smiles not because of weather, but because you turned her personal world into a shared moment. Case studies in emotional intelligence show that people feel most drawn to those who echo their identity back to them. This is why recalling small details or building on inside jokes is so powerful. It triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which strengthens bonds. A woman may not consciously realize why she looks forward to a man's messages, but biologically, her brain has linked him to pleasure and recognition. Another layer is contrast. Desire does not grow in predictability, it grows in surprise. If a man texts at the exact same time with the same routine message, he conditions her to expect nothing new. But when his timing or style shifts, sometimes playful, sometimes thoughtful, sometimes mysterious, the uncertainty keeps her attention sharp. In psychology, this is called variable reinforcement, the same principle that makes gambling addictive. The brain craves the next unpredictable reward, and in this case, the reward is his message. But this power can be misused. Men who oversaturate with constant texting dull their own effect. Neuroscience proves that the brain adapts to repeated stimulation. What was once exciting becomes normal, and what becomes normal eventually loses power. The secret is not in flooding her with attention but in making each interaction carry weight. Silence at the right time can be louder than 100 words. There is also a darker truth. Many women are surrounded by digital noise, messages from men who all sound the same, trying too hard or offering empty validation. In that chaos, the man who stands out is the one who leaves emotional fingerprints, not just words. He is remembered because his texts carry a pulse of identity, humor, or mystery that others lack. She may not reply instantly, she may even act casual, but inside her brain a stronger connection is already forming. She doesn't smile because she wants to be polite. She smiles because her body and mind gave her no choice. When silence enters the space between two people, most men panic. They rush to fill the gap with more texts, more emojis, more questions, thinking that activity equals interest. But the truth is, silence, when used with control, can do what words never can. It creates tension. And in psychology, tension is the soil where desire quietly grows. A woman's mind works in patterns. When she receives a message that sparks emotion, her brain begins a loop of anticipation. She wonders, what will he say next? That curiosity is fragile. If the man instantly floods her with more, the loop closes too fast, and the curiosity dies. But if he holds back, allows a pause, her brain begins to replay the last message. Each replay deepens the emotional weight of his words. Studies in cognitive psychology show that delayed rewards create stronger craving than instant ones. In relationships, silence acts as that delay, amplifying the effect of every message. Think of it like music. A song without pauses would be unbearable. The silence between notes gives sound its power. In the same way, a man who understands the rhythm of communication turns every message into a moment. When he chooses silence, he lets her wonder, and wonder is often more addictive than certainty. There's also an element of scarcity at play. Human beings instinctively value what is not always available. If she knows he isn't glued to his phone, she begins to measure his replies differently. Each word seems to hold more meaning because she cannot predict when the next one will arrive. This scarcity effect is deeply wired into our psychology. It's why rare objects are prized, and why inconsistent signals can sometimes create stronger bonds than constant attention. But silence only works if the foundation is strong. If his earlier messages carried no emotional weight, silence becomes emptiness. She forgets rather than craves. That is why the secret text that makes her smile must first leave an impression before silence can magnify it. Once that emotional fingerprint is placed, pulling back creates the feeling of unfinished business. She starts filling the silence with her own imagination, and often, imagination is far more powerful than reality. Real examples show this effect clearly. Think of two men texting the same woman. One sends constant messages, long explanations, and repeated attempts to gain her attention. She may respond, but her brain files him under predictable. The other man sends fewer words but each with sharp emotional tone. When he goes quiet, she notices. She checks her phone. She wonders if he is busy, if he is thinking of her, or if he has moved on. That space of uncertainty creates desire, not because of games, but because of human psychology. In dark psychology, this is called controlled withdrawal. It's not ghosting, and it's not manipulation for cruelty. It is the art of letting silence act as a mirror, making her realize what your presence actually means. And often, it is in that silence that she first recognizes her own craving. Desire is not built in loud moments. It is built in the quiet spaces where imagination fills the gaps words cannot reach. When a man learns how to combine the right message with the right silence, he creates an invisible pull. The woman doesn't consciously label it, but she feels it. That's why a simple text, delivered at the right time, with the right tone, followed by silence, can carry more weight than hours of empty conversation. There is a psychological law at work here, the Zeigarnik effect. It states that the human brain remembers incomplete interactions more strongly than complete ones. If a man always finishes every conversation with no mystery left, the brain has no reason to replay it. But if he leaves just enough unsaid, her mind reopens the conversation over and over, trying to complete it. This is why cliffhanger work in stories, why people binge shows, and why one unfinished sentence can linger longer than an entire speech. Applied to texting, it means that mystery beats constant availability every time. Another overlooked truth is emotional contrast. If every message is light, funny, or casual, the effect becomes flat. But when a man occasionally sends something that stirs deeper emotion, a personal compliment that feels rare, or a subtle reminder of intimacy, the contrast makes it stand out. Just like a single candle is brightest in darkness, one emotional message shines when surrounded by silence. That's the secret to making a woman smile at her phone without even realizing why. Real-life examples prove this again and again. Think about when someone texts you something personal, then doesn't reply for hours. At first, it can feel unsettling, but soon the mind turns that moment into a loop. You read the words again, looking for hidden meaning. You wonder what they are doing, why they haven't replied, and whether the words were casual or intentional. This constant replay attaches emotional weight to the message. And when the reply finally arrives, it doesn't just land, it hits with force. Men often fear silence because they confuse it with disinterest. But in reality, silence is a tool, and like any tool, its power depends on how it's used. If it's used with intention, it creates space for her emotions to grow. If it's used recklessly, it turns into distance. The difference lies in whether the silence is paired with meaningful communication before and after. By now, the pattern is clear. A woman smiles at a man's text not because of the text alone, but because of the emotions that text unlocks. Those emotions are amplified when he doesn't chase, when he doesn't drown her in constant words, but instead allows the silence to breathe. It is in that breathing space that she starts to miss him, to crave him, to imagine him. The hidden secret is not really about the words. It is about the dance between words and silence. The right message creates the spark. The silence keeps it alive. And when he finally returns with another carefully chosen line, it feels less like a text and more like an answer her mind was already waiting for. That is why one message can bring a smile to her face again and again, not because of the letters on the screen, but because of the space around them, the mystery they leave behind, and the desire they quietly awaken.